I gave him 8 years of my life. Supported his dreams when he had nothing. Loved him through every struggle. Then he met a woman with money and left me like I was trash. But when she disappeared, he came crawling back. What happened next? Nobody saw coming. If you've ever loved someone who didn't see your worth until it was too late, this story is for you. Hit subscribe and ring that bell because what I'm about to share will either heal you or break you. Either way, you need to hear this. Let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Diane and I'm about to tell you the most painful truth I've ever lived through. This isn't just a story about a man who left me. This is about how I lost myself trying to build someone else and how I had to break completely before I could become whole again. I met Kevin in college. I was 22, studying education, working part-time at a campus bookstore just to make ends meet. He was this confident guy in my sociology class, always talking about big dreams and bigger plans. He wanted to work in marketing, build campaigns that would change how people saw the world. When he talked, you believed him. I believed him. Our first date was at a free concert on campus. We sat on the grass, shared a bag of chips, and talked until the stars came out. He told me about growing up with a single mom who worked 3 jobs. I told him about my grandmother raising me after my parents passed. We were both survivors, both fighters, both dreaming of something better. When he kissed me that night, I felt like I'd found my person, my forever. Those first few years were beautiful in the way that struggle can be beautiful. When you're facing it together. We graduated and moved into a tiny apartment that barely fit a bed and a couch. Kevin started applying for marketing jobs, hundreds of them. Rejection after rejection. I watched this confident man I fell in love with start to doubt himself. There were nights he'd just sit on our couch staring at his laptop looking defeated. But I never doubted him, not once. I got my teaching job at an elementary school and it didn't pay much, but it was steady. When Kevin couldn't make rent, I covered it. When he needed a suit for interviews, I picked up extra tutoring sessions after school. I'd come home exhausted, my voice from teaching all day, and I'd still sit with him, helping him rewrite his resume for the 100th time, telling him that someone would see what I saw in him. My mama used to call me during those years. She'd say, "Baby, I'm proud of you for standing by your man, but make sure he sees you while you're building him up." I'd laugh it off. Tell her Kevin appreciated everything I did. Tell her we were a team. Looking back now, I wonder if she knew something I was too in love to see. Kevin finally got his break. A mid-level marketing firm hired him and suddenly we could breathe. We started talking about the future for real. Wedding plans. Nothing fancy, just our families and close friends. Maybe a little house one day. Kids. I'd catch him looking at me sometimes with this softness in his eyes, and he'd say, "I'm going to make all this up to you, Diane, everything you did for me." I'd kiss him and tell him we were already living our dream. But then everything changed. Kevin got promoted, then promoted again. His salary went from comfortable to impressive. In less than 2 years, he started attending networking events, corporate galas, fancy dinners with clients. He'd come home in expensive suits I didn't recognize, smelling like cologne that cost more than our monthly groceries. At first, I was so proud. This was what we worked for, right? This was the life we built together. Except somewhere along the way, it stopped being we and started being him. Kevin began working late, always late. Our Sunday morning routine of cooking breakfast together disappeared. He was tired, he said, stressed, needed to focus on his career. I understood, or at least I tried to, but there was this distance growing between us that I couldn't name. When I'd reach for his hand, he'd hold it, but it felt different. Like he was there but not really there. Then came the company gala. Kevin had been talking about it for weeks. It was a big deal. All the executives and major clients would be there. I bought a new dress, got my hair done, felt beautiful for the first time in months. I was excited to be by his side to celebrate how far we'd come. But the moment we walked into that ballroom, I felt like I didn't belong. Everyone was dripping in designer everything. talking about vacation homes and investment portfolios. And I was just Diane, the elementary school teacher, in a dress from a department store sale. That's when I saw her, Vanessa. She was standing near the bar laughing with a group of executives, and she looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Everything about her screamed money. The way she carried herself, the jewelry that caught the light, even the way she held her wine glass. And when Kevin saw her, something in his face changed. He excused himself from me and walked right over to her group. I watched them talk, watched her touch his arm when she laughed, watched him light up in a way I hadn't seen in months. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was being insecure, paranoid, but my gut knew. Women always know. We just don't always want to believe it. When I asked Kevin about her later that night, he brushed it off. Said she was the daughter of some real estate mogul, just networking. But the way he said her name, Vanessa, like it meant something, like it tasted good in his mouth. That's when fear really settled into my chest. The next few months were torture. Kevin started working weekends. His phone was always face down. He'd smile at texts and then quickly put his phone away when he noticed me watching, when I tried to talk to him about us, about the distance. I felt he'd flip it on me, tell me I was being insecure, that I needed to understand his career was demanding, that not everyone could be content with a simple life like I was. That last part stung the most. Like my dreams were somehow less than his just because they were quieter. I caught him deleting messages one night. Just saw it out of the corner of my eye while I was grading papers. My heart dropped into my stomach, but I didn't say anything. I was afraid of what the truth would be. Afraid that if I pushed everything would shatter. So I stayed quiet and felt myself getting smaller in my own relationship. I started wondering if maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I was too simple, too regular, too broke for the man he was becoming. 3 months after that gala, Kevin asked me to sit down. It was a Tuesday evening. I remember because I had parent-teacher conferences the next day and I was preparing. He had this look on his face, serious and distant, and my whole body went cold. He said we needed to talk about our future. Said he'd been doing a lot of thinking about what he wanted in life. And then he said the words that would break me. I need someone who matches my lifestyle now. I just stared at him. 8 years of loving this man, supporting him, believing in him, and he was telling me I didn't match his lifestyle. He kept talking, saying things like, "You're amazing, and you'll always be special to me, and we just want different things now." It sounded like a script, like something corporate and rehearsed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him if he remembered who paid his rent when he had nothing, if he remembered who held him when he cried about failing, but I couldn't speak. I just sat there while my heart shattered into a million pieces. He told me to take my time moving out like he was doing me some kind of favor. I packed my things that same night while he was conveniently at work. I packed 8 years of memories into boxes and trash bags. The photos of us, the little notes he used to leave me. The coffee mug that said "World's Best Girlfriend" that he got me on our anniversary. I left my key on the kitchen counter right next to a note that just said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." I didn't even cry until I got to my friend's apartment. Then I fell apart. Within 2 weeks, Kevin and Vanessa were official on social media. 2 weeks, I saw photos of them at restaurants I'd never heard of, smiling like they'd been together for years. My friends tried to hide it from me, but I looked anyway. I tortured myself, watching him live this glamorous life with her. Private jets, luxury hotels, parties with people who looked like they'd never struggled a day in their lives. And Vanessa, she was perfect for him, at least on the surface. She matched his new lifestyle in every way I never could. 6 months after he destroyed me, Kevin posted their engagement photos. The ring looked like it cost more than I'd make in 2 years of teaching. The caption was something about finding his forever, his partner, his equal. I stared at that post for hours, wondering how someone could rewrite history so easily, wondering if he ever thought about me at all. My phone blew up with friends, asking if I was okay. I lied and said I was happy for him. But the truth was, I wanted to disappear. I started therapy because I couldn't function anymore. I'd cry during my lunch breaks at school. My students would ask me why I looked sad. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't understand how someone I gave everything to could just move on like I never mattered. My therapist kept asking me why I was mourning someone who clearly didn't deserve me. I didn't have an answer. Love doesn't make sense like that. You can't just turn it off because someone hurt you. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. I threw myself into my work, into my kids at school. I reconnected with parts of myself I'd lost while trying to be everything Kevin needed. I started saying no to people who drained my energy. Started doing things just because they made me happy. I wasn't over him. Not by a long shot, but I was learning to be okay without him. Learning that my worth wasn't tied to whether someone chose me or not. Then 4 months after Kevin's engagement, my friend called me in a panic. She told me to turn on the news and there it was. Vanessa had disappeared, just gone. 3 weeks before their wedding, she vanished without a trace. Left the mansion they were buying. Her phone disconnected. No note, nothing. The news was calling it a missing person case, but something about it felt off. The truth came out slowly, then all at once. Vanessa wasn't who she said she was. The real estate mogul father, exaggerated wealth, facing bankruptcy, the family connections, mostly fake or greatly embellished. And Vanessa herself, she'd done this before. The police found 2 other men in different states, same pattern, get engaged to successful men, gain access to their finances and business connections, then disappear. She was a con artist, and Kevin had fallen for every bit of it. The business deals Kevin thought were legitimate because of her family's connections. They cost him money and reputation. The promotion he got that he attributed to her father's influence. It was being investigated for fraud. Kevin's company put him on leave. The mansion they were buying. He'd put down a huge deposit from his savings and it was gone. His social media that used to be full of their perfect life deleted. Everything he'd built, everything he'd traded me for, it was all crumbling. His mother called me crying. She told me Kevin was devastated, that he'd lost everything, that he was sorry for how he treated me. I listened to her sob and apologize on his behalf, and I felt this strange mix of vindication and sadness. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied that karma had caught up with him, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad that he'd thrown away something real for something shiny and fake. Sad that he had to learn this lesson the hardest way possible. I didn't reach out to him. I figured he needed to sit with what he'd done, with the choices he'd made. I'd spent months healing from him, and I wasn't about to reopen that wound just because his life fell apart. But 3 months later, at midnight on a random Tuesday, there was a knock on my door. And when I opened it, there he was, Kevin. But not the confident, successful Kevin I'd watched from afar. This was someone broken. His eyes were red, his clothes wrinkled, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Diane," he said, and his voice cracked. "I made the biggest mistake of my life." He started crying right there in my doorway. These deep, painful sobs that shook his whole body. He told me he was sorry, that he was stupid, that he threw away gold while chasing glitter. He said Vanessa was a fantasy, but I was real, and he didn't appreciate real until it was gone. He reached for my hand the way he used to, holding it like I was the only thing keeping him from drowning. "Please, baby," he begged. "I love you. I've always loved you. Please give me another chance." And I stood there looking at this man I'd given 8 years of my life to, feeling my heart pull in 2 different directions. Part of me remembered everything we'd been through together. Remembered the good times, the dreams we shared, the love that felt unbreakable. Part of me wanted to let him in, to comfort him, to be that safe place I'd always been for him. But there was another part of me, a newer, stronger part that remembered something else. I remembered packing my things in trash bags while my hands shook. Remembered seeing their engagement photos and feeling like I'd been erased. Remembered all the nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering what was wrong with me. Remembered my therapist asking me when I was going to start choosing myself. And I realized something standing there in my doorway. I didn't want him back. Not because I was trying to punish him. Not because I was being petty or cruel, but because in the time he'd been gone, I'd found something I didn't even know I'd lost. I found myself, and she was too precious to sacrifice again. Kevin, I said softly, pulling my hand away from his. I forgive you. His face lit up with hope, but I kept talking. Not for you, but for me. I forgive you so I can let this go completely. But I can't go back. I can't unlive what I learned without you. When you left, I fell apart. But then I put myself back together. And the woman I became, she's stronger than the girl who loved you. She knows her worth. She doesn't wait for someone to see her value. She knows it already. Tears were streaming down my face now, but my voice was steady. I hope you heal from this, Kevin. I really do. I hope you learn to see people for who they are, not what they can do for you. But I'm no longer your home to return to. That door closed the day you walked out on 8 years like it meant nothing. He stood there broken and crying. And I felt my heart break all over again. Not for us, but for what we could have been if he'd just appreciated what he had. I told him goodbye, closed the door, and listened to him cry on the other side. I cried too, sitting with my back against that door, mourning not the man he became, but the love we used to have. But even through the tears, I felt something else. Peace, freedom, strength. That was 2 years ago. I'm engaged now to someone who saw my worth from day one. Someone who treats my simple dreams like they're the most important thing in the world. Someone who brags about dating a teacher instead of treating it like it's not enough. Kevin, I heard through mutual friends that he's still trying to rebuild his life, still looking for something he can't name. And honestly, I hope he finds it. I truly hope he finds peace one day and learns to recognize real love when it's standing right in front of him. But sometimes, the hardest endings are the ones where no one really wins, yet everyone grows. I learned that you can't force someone to see your worth when they're too focused on what they think they deserve. I learned that supporting someone should never mean losing yourself in the process. And most importantly, I learned that the greatest love story I'll ever experience is the one where I chose to love myself enough to walk away from anyone who couldn't see my value. If this story resonated with you, if you saw even a small piece of your own journey in it, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Would you have taken him back? Would you have made the same decision? Share this with someone who might need the reminder that their worth isn't negotiable. Thank you for listening to my truth. Until next time, remember this: you are enough, exactly as you are. Never forget that.